Well, guys, you know what might have some impact is this little thing called MSNBC.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys heard about this.
They're gonna add porn now. Yes.
God, I hope so.
So basically,
terrible. Sorry, Odin.
On the free speech platform X, Donald Trump Jr. came out and said, "Hey, Elon Musk, I have the funniest idea ever," talking about how NBC is going to be selling off their news division. And then Elon Musk comes in and says, "How much does it cost?" This was the same thing that happened when he decided to buy Twitter. And then everyone else is chiming in like, no joke, we should all like, go all in on it. Gary, would you throw in some bucks to buy MSNBC?
Yeah, I mean, some like Matthew Marsden was out there saying that's a waste of time. Make your own stuff. I'm all, no, I mean, buying broadcast television's kind of a waste. But if it's Elon's money, I'll throw in $1,000. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we just, this is exactly what they've been doing, is buying up all the stuff we love. So.
Exactly. No, they infiltrated everything, and what everybody's been saying, put Alex Jones on there. Joe Rogan has offered to be on there dressed as Rachel Maddow, telling the same lies. I would watch that all day. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because actually I wanted to bring this up a little bit later. But
remember, sorry to interrupt, but remember what the MS comes from too. What's the MS from?
Microsoft.
I can hear it now. All the rees out there going, they just buy our stuff and ruin it with their weird ideology.
Doesn't feel so good, does it?
That's what I was talking about. We started small with things like MSNBC and the Muppets. Next thing you know, we got it all.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny about all this is like, the people who are like leaving X for Blue Sky, right? Like they're going off because it's like, oh, we want our own platform, right? It's like you weren't banned from X, right? You chose to leave and go someplace else. That's very different than how Twitter used to be, where it's like if you spoke the wrong thing.
It's very much like Twitter used to be. I found out, because have you not seen that even Rob Reiner's like, I can't fucking do it here because y'all the same people are here.
Well, yeah, the trash took out itself. All the maps, the kind you hang on the walls. Like nail the maps on the walls.
Mm-hmm. They got mad at him for wanting to accept Trump as president. Did you see that? He's like, it's unhealthy. Yeah, he's like, it's unhealthy. I need to concentrate on my family, and there's a script I'm working on, all this other stuff. And they piled on him. It's like, what the fuck?
I thought he was going to light himself on fire or something.
Mark Hamill's also like, I need some time. Things are just really rough right now.
I'm not going to be
the election and fascism and my paychecks from the Democratic Party fucking dried up. So what am I going to do? Amazingly quiet because he's suffering, or did the paychecks dry up? So that's the question.
Maybe a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I was making is that it's not even equivalent to what happened before this last election or Elon buying Twitter, because back in the dark times before Elon bought the platform, it's like conservatives or people who had differing points of view from like the liberal elite who were running the platform, they didn't have a choice. They were kicked off. They were banned. They were silenced. Whereas with this thing that's happening, they're choosing to leave and they can come back if they want, right? So it's a little bit different. But what's interesting about this kind of thing about Elon possibly buying MSNBC along with like Trump and like, a cadre of other like-minded individuals is that Comcast is actually considering spinning off all of their cable news outlets, or not just news outlets, but cable channels. And so you got stuff like USA, MSNBC, and some leadership changes as well. And this is a Wall Street Journal article that kind of goes into it. But what's interesting about this article, guys, is that when I was reading through it and I was kind of seeing how basically Comcast is planning to try to spin off all their cable holdings as like its own company, and that's going to help the stock prices of like both new companies and all this other stuff. I was like, the Redstones already did this with Paramount. Like this is exactly what National Amusements did when they decided to spin off CBS and Paramount into like their own separate companies, and that did not work out.
No.
Like that
I
was
think there's
a
big
disaster
difference here. I think the big difference here is Comcast is setting these all up for sale. That's what they're doing. See, Paramount was just doing that to try and cook the books and make things look better. They weren't planning on selling anything off at this time. I think they're really getting ready to unload a lot of these channels.
If they actually sell them, yeah. If splitting them off into two companies, by the way, that was the opposite of working. It just didn't work. It broke Paramount, and they're still incredibly stupid, by the way. Incredibly stupid. God. Quick aside, guys. Sorry. I just watched Yellowstone, Tulsa King, Landman. Yellowstone is not on Paramount Plus.
No.
But then you think about it, you go, that's probably better. They should probably end Paramount Plus and sell everything, and they'd be better. But with this, it's Comcast Universal. Let's keep that in mind. It's Comcast Universal selling this stuff off. Yes, they're selling it now because broadcast is dead. It is absolutely dead. The only thing keeping it alive and will for the time being is live sports until the streaming services can, especially Netflix, can figure out little bandwidth and start stream and Amazon Prime's already doing it. So once the streamers figure it out, which will be within a year, broadcast is dead. That's why Disney's pushing ESPN so much, and which is going to fail too. They need to sell it and get something, because initially, all these companies buy themselves out of extinction. You guys know this, but I'm talking to the audience too. So Comcast is freaking cable. It's cable. It's dying. So what did we do? We bought a bunch of stuff to keep us alive a little more, and then they have to dump. Same thing's going to happen to Disney with IP someday. So this is a natural order of things. The bottom has fallen out of all of this because, quite frankly, Tom, you'll agree with me. Odin, I think you'll all agree with me. This stuff was dying already 4 years ago, and it got a false sense of life through the pandemic. It should have died during the pandemic, and it didn't. So now they kick the can down the road, and the bottom's fallen out of their entire industry, of their entire culture, of their entire belief system. And good. It should have happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but it didn't, because they tried to force culture. Tolkien's son, Christopher, talks about coercion. The machine in Lord of the Rings is coercion. And that's exactly what the machine has been doing to us for the last 4 years. And now they're paying the price. And I say good.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that a lot of these channels, like, the E! Entertainment channel, the Sci-Fi channel, stuff like that, they were only in existence because they were part of a cable package, right? Like it wasn't like the big networks where it's like, ABC, NBC, Fox, like all this other stuff that had broadcasting rights. It was like these other channels were basically bundled in and forced upon consumers with like cable packages. And so like their existence was kind of artificial to begin with. It was just about adding value to the cable package so they could charge them more on a monthly basis, as opposed to watching TV for free over the broadcast airwaves. And when it comes to this stuff, like Gary, you're absolutely right. Like over the pandemic, like we had this big shift into streaming content. And one of the reasons that Yellowstone isn't available on Paramount Plus is because of the licensing deal that they had before they went the streaming route, right?
Yeah.
So like they basically sold the rights to Yellowstone to, I think, was it NBC, Peacock, something like that. Yeah.
CBS
good old cock, it was short-sighted because they were like at the time it was like separated out into CBS and Paramount as well.
CBS all ass. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. All ass indeed. It's just one of those examples of like Hollywood being short-sighted, not being up with the times, and also like just being greedy for the most part. But Tom, what's your take on this? Do you think that there's a possibility that Elon would actually buy MSNBC and turn it into the X network?
I do, and I agree with Gary only to a point. I agree with him up to, I don't think cable is dead yet, because I think streaming is basically the Wizard of Oz, right? He's there behind the curtain. It's a real person. It's working, but it's not quite as up to snuff as we think it is, right? Like, to be punny with the movie coming out this weekend, even though they turn him into a bad guy. And I've had that argument. And I've noticed the separation. It's like most men understand the wizard. Most women think he's a bad guy. I don't get it. But anyway, that being said, that's not about what we're talking about here. I think that this whole Tyson fight proved that the infrastructure is not ready for cable, like, or to lose cable yet, because there was no way it was all Netflix, right? And you had 30, 40, 50 million people all trying to tune in at Netflix at once, and everything crashed, Okay. And I get it. Amazon's been able to handle a few football games and stuff so far. But I think that we are a little ways away yet from streaming taking over everything, because we have parts in America, and you should know this coming into Wisconsin, Gary, where the internet is shit. So like, and I had decent internet and I couldn't even get the damn Tyson fight to work.
Yeah, they're a ways away from showing a Super Bowl on Netflix.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, try to double the audience you just had.
It's a couple years.
So that's what I'm saying. And there's people like my dad that will never ever. Now.
Yeah, like
the other thing you have is
the olds will hang on to it. The olds will hang on to it. Absolutely. It's kind of like they still print newspapers.
Yeah. But the thing is until they actually conglomerate everything, the streaming wars are still kind of going on, right? Until Netflix and Amazon are the only two left standing, basically, which we all know is what's going to happen at the end of the day, 10, 15 years from now. But yeah.
Yeah, but there's also bandwidth issues to take into consideration.
That's what I'm saying. The whole country is not ready for this shit yet. Like, we have areas that still have dial-up.
But that's an infrastructure type thing. Like, and with Elon Musk talking about like putting out, Starlink to all the rural communities and stuff like that could be an answer to the issue. So
Starlink's pretty good.
I think Gary's right. I think it's just a matter of like a couple years before like it's ready for prime time.
Yeah, we're starting the fourth quarter, right? And broadcast TV's down 42-7. Could they conceivably come back in the fourth quarter? Yes, but they're not, because they just lost their starting quarterback and the cheerleaders are crying. I mean, it's over. It's so we're watching this just play out. That's all we're doing. And I think it's kind of fun, but Tom's right. It's going to be Apple, Amazon, Netflix. And if Disney will probably hang around too, because they own so much stuff. But if Paramount were smart, which they're not, if Warner Brothers were smart, where they're not, they would just stop streaming altogether. And and listen, I was one of the proponents.
The studios will merge,
if this is going to work, you got to put all your shit on one platform. You got to try that first, and they never did that, right? So now it's just like, be the arms dealer. And I'm not the one who came up with that analogy, but it's good. Be the arms dealer. That's what Sony's done, and they're going to be fine. They're just going to make stuff. They're a production house. And it's ego. So these studios, these legacy studios are dead. Old Hollywood is already dead. What Hollywood's going to be is a side hustle for larger corporations doing other things. It won't be its own industry anymore, which is incredible and scary to a lot of people, because that means if Amazon gets bored one day, or they need to satisfy some shareholders up, okay, we don't need Prime anymore. We'll keep it for live sports. And we won't make stuff anymore. Like, we'll keep the Prime up there for rentals and but we won't make stuff anymore. We're done.
Well, and that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, there's this illusion with streaming, right? Because I know we all know it's inevitable, but like, I keep looking at it as like, every time Hollywood keeps trying to do something with it, it's like, it's not quite ready yet.
No,
but people are not quite ready yet to adapt it, because all they keep doing is making channels that are like cable channels now on streaming. And Gary's right, like Andrea said from the start. This was basically the world's dumbest format war. It was where everybody decided, every studio decided they were going to come up with their own format instead of all working together, like Gary just said. Because
and I want to get Odin's take on this. So Odin, there's been a lot of memes about MSNBC where they're like, oh, give Alex Jones control of programming, or like basically rename it InfoWars and like all this other stuff.
Yes.
What's your take on the potential idea of Elon buying the most anti-Trump network out there?
I mean, I would just love to see it. I think that it would also just be the best troll that could ever exist. Like, this is the great timeline. Like, there's just so many things, whether it's Elon buying Twitter, whether it is the results of the election. It just seems like we're going in this trajectory. So for like MSNBC to be put up for sale, and for someone like an Elon Musk, or there's been other groups I know that are also interested in potentially buying it, that would just be an amazing thing to see. Yeah, so go ahead and throw like a Alex Jones on there, or do exactly what they were trying to do to Alex Jones.
Yes.
And turn it into a complete joke. Right. Yeah. And that's exactly what they try to do to him. And they try to do it through nefarious means. Whereas on this side, it seems that we're trying to at least do it completely legitimately, of like, hey, let's just buy it outright and then, do what we want with it. The one thing I'd be interested in actually is going to be the naming scheme. Like, would they be able to actually buy MSNBC because of, one, obviously, as you mentioned, right, MS for Microsoft, or just NBC, that name being in the title, would they have to change it? I imagine that they might, because of the, brand connections there. But obviously, you'd still get the infrastructure. You'd still get the, I assume you would get the brand to a certain extent. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what you can buy and how that would actually play out. And the one thing I'd also mention, because it was kind of being brought up a little bit, was don't forget also that even though YouTube, like Google, did try something with YouTube Red and it just did not work, I think YouTube is also still a player you have to think about because of just think about how much bandwidth, how much content
they are the
they
player.
have. I mean, it's just huge, right?
They are the player.
If they actually had better like people running things as far as like an actual brand like of a premium content, I think YouTube Red probably would have done better. But clearly they just didn't. They had Cobra Kai, and that was about it. That was like the only good idea that they had at that time. So if they get some better idea people, they could be a huge player in this space.
Well, as far as the Jake Paul, that rigged fight that we watched,
terrible.
The girls before that were awesome though. So that probably would have been fine on YouTube, but 65 million people hitting one streaming service. This is probably the only platform that could have done it. Now I'm going to say something very discouraging to streamers out there. So sorry. They put the hammer on your streams. They do. There's a limit they allow. And I don't, this is purely anecdotal and it's my speculation, but because of that situation and so many people streaming at once, they're probably like, we got some limit for each stream based on some algorithm or something like that, which would make sense, but it's like, gosh, damn it. So they are hammering me down. It's like, yeah, but it's not because of your views or your political views or whatever. It's because they can't handle it. And I've talked to people at YouTube and, the algorithm is something they maintain. They don't entirely understand because the people who built it are gone. So it's crazy how that works. But YouTube could handle
idiocracy over there.
Yeah, basically, yes. Yes. I mean, our world is right now. But it's like YouTube will be the first to handle a Super Bowl. I think it could be the first to handle the Super Bowl if they want it. I mean, getting the NFL package on YouTube TV was huge. That was a big get. Taking it away from DirecTV, and now everybody's just used to it. I don't watch any of it, but a lot of people do.
All I want is a photograph of Elon Musk at NBC headquarters carrying out the kitchen sink on X. That's all I want. Let's do it. I'm all.
The other thing that just kind of boggles me though is they keep putting their streaming shows on TV, and they still haven't been able to get the audience for a show that they used to on TV quite yet. Right, the only exceptions being shows that are shown simultaneously, like on Max, like Game of Thrones and Penguin, maybe. Because I don't even know what the final numbers are in that.
Penguin, Penguin's on terrestrial.
Yeah, and we know that Tulsa King is getting huge numbers on both sides. So like, those are shows that we know are hits. But what else are really hits? Right, none of these shows, because a lot of these shows that they're considering quote unquote hits, especially on Disney Plus. A lot of those are shows that would have got canceled after 3 episodes if they were on regular TV back in the day.
Tom, I have it on very good authority. I don't run scooper crap or like unless I actually hear from somebody who actually works there. That She-Hulk met all the metrics for a hit for Disney Plus, but they shit-canned it because of the reaction. So that's showing how things are changed. But it did technically hit the metrics for them to go ahead with the season 2, but they didn't do it. They chose.
Do you think Tatiana Maslany's ragging on Bob Iger might have had something to do with that?
Yes, I would say that would probably have something ragging on your CEO, even though I think he's an idiot, but not a good idea.